The Cursed Film. In the dim light of his cluttered apartment, Alex Callahan stared at his laptop screen, the cursor hovering over a strange message he had received. As a freelance film reviewer and occasional vlogger, he was used to getting obscure tips from people claiming to know the next big thing in underground horror. But this was different. The email was from someone who went only by Kane. No last name, no profile picture, and just a subject line that read, "The film that changes you forever." The message was simple. "Alex, I've heard you like to explore things most people stay away from. There's a film, a cursed film, if you believe in that sort of thing. It's called Lune Noir, but the few who've seen it only refer to it as the cursed film. Once you watch it, you're not the same. Some people go insane, others. Worse. There are no copies, no streaming links, just this one. If you're brave enough, meet me at the Old Crescent Theater on 7th. Midnight. Kane." Alex's pulse quickened as he read the words. He had reviewed hundreds of horror movies, both classics and unknown oddities, always seeking something that would genuinely shake him. But a cursed film? It was a trope he'd seen 100 times over, one that he had long dismissed as fiction. Still, curiosity clawed at him, and he found himself itching to take the risk. That night, with only his cell phone and a flashlight, Alex made his way to the Crescent Theater. The building was abandoned, its neon sign flickering faintly, casting eerie shadows across the empty street. He pushed open the door, its rusty hinges creaking in protest, and stepped inside. Inside the theater, the air was thick with dust and the scent of mildew. Broken seats and scattered popcorn littered the floor, remnants of a time when the Crescent had been a bustling place. At the far end of the lobby stood a man with dark hair, his face hidden in the shadows. "You must be Alex," the man said, his voice a low, raspy murmur. "You must be Kane," Alex replied, trying to mask the slight tremor in his voice. Kane nodded, gesturing toward the theater's only functioning room. "The film is ready. You're one of the few who will ever see it. Once it starts, there's no stopping it, no rewinding. You finish the film, or it finishes you." Alex chuckled nervously, but Kane's expression remained cold. He extended his hand, revealing a small, unmarked USB drive. "Here, I can't stay, but once you watch it, you'll understand." Kane disappeared into the shadows, leaving Alex standing alone in the silent theater. As he walked down the aisle toward the old projector, he felt an icy chill grip his spine. He inserted the USB into the projector's port and waited as the screen flickered to life. The title appeared in faded, cracked letters across the screen. Lune Noir. The film began without any opening credits. The screen showed a dilapidated room, dimly lit by a single, swaying light bulb. Shadows crept along the walls, moving with an unnatural rhythm. The silence was punctuated by faint whispers that grew louder, distorting into agonizing wails. And then the camera panned, revealing a figure in the corner, a woman with stringy hair obscuring her face. Her body was twisted unnatural, as if contorted by some unseen force. She stared directly into the lens, her eyes wide and empty, like black holes pulling Alex's gaze deeper into the screen. The first hour was a series of bizarre, disjointed images. Flashes of grotesque faces, empty hallways, and symbols drawn in blood. Strange words scrawled on the walls in languages he didn't recognize. The woman would appear sporadically, her movements jerky and unsettling, as though she were trapped in a broken puppet show. By the second hour, Alex felt an unbearable pressure in his head. His eyes burned, his skin prickled with an itchy unease, and the whispers in the film seemed to echo in his mind, merging with his own thoughts. He tried to look away, but found himself unable to break his gaze. Sweat dripped down his temples as the woman reappeared, now closer to the camera. Her face was clearer, revealing hollow, sunken cheeks and a grin that stretched too wide. Her eyes, black and empty, seemed to pierce through the screen. "Join me," she whispered, her voice hissing like steam escaping a kettle. The screen went dark. Then, an unsettling image appeared, a group of people sitting in a theater, watching a film. They were staring, unblinking, their faces twisted in horror. Alex's heart pounded as he recognized one of the faces in the audience. It was himself, staring slack-jawed and terrified. He blinked, convinced it was some hallucination, but as the camera panned, he saw other familiar faces, local critics, bloggers, even some of his colleagues. All of them were watching, entranced, as a figure emerged from the shadows behind them. A masked figure with black, hollow eyes. The people on the screen began to scream, their faces contorting in agony as they clawed at their own eyes, trying to tear them from their sockets. The figure moved closer, looming over them like a harbinger of doom. Suddenly, the lights in the theater flickered, and Alex heard a soft, scraping sound behind him. He whipped around, heart racing, but the theater was empty. His breath came in shallow gasps, and a shiver ran down his spine. But he couldn't stop watching. He had to see how it ended. The screen shifted to a new scene. A woman, bound to a chair in a dark room, her eyes wide with terror. The camera zoomed in, focusing on her trembling lips as she whispered, "Help me. Please." Her voice was so soft that Alex leaned forward, straining to hear her. Her pleading eyes seemed to meet his own, and he felt an overwhelming urge to reach out, to help her somehow. Then, abruptly, her face twisted into a malicious grin. "You're already part of it," she sneered. "You're one of us now." The scene cut to static, and the words "play again" appeared on the screen. Alex stared in horror, unable to comprehend what he had just witnessed. He stumbled out of the theater, his mind reeling. The world outside felt distorted, surreal, like a dark dream he couldn't escape. Everywhere he looked, he saw hints of the woman's face, reflected in windows, lurking in alleyways, peering from the shadows. That night he tried to sleep, but the whispers haunted him. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw the audience members clawing at their faces, heard their agonized screams echoing in his ears. Over the following days, Alex's grip on reality began to unravel. He became obsessed with the film, watching it over and over, hoping to find some clue, some explanation. Each time he played it, new images appeared, darker, more disturbing than before. He saw glimpses of himself, trapped in that same theater, surrounded by shadowy figures whispering his name. Friends and colleagues noticed his deteriorating condition, but he brushed off their concerns. They couldn't understand. The film had burrowed into his mind, taken root like a malignant parasite. It whispered to him in the dead of night, urging him to share it with others, to spread its cursed message. Unable to resist, Alex uploaded clips of the film online, inviting others to experience it. He wanted to warn them, But the film's hold on him was too strong. Instead, he found himself writing messages like, "See it for yourself. It will change you." Soon, reports began to surface of others experiencing hallucinations, seeing shadowy figures in their homes, hearing whispers that never ceased. News outlets picked up the story of the cursed film, and the legend of Loon were spread like wildfire. Alex became a recluse, haunted by visions of the woman in the film, her hollow eyes and sinister grin lurking in every corner. One evening, unable to take it any longer, he returned to the theater where he had first watched the film. The projector was still there, and the USB drive lay waiting for him. He knew what he had to do. Taking a deep breath, he inserted the drive and started the film one last time. As the screen flickered to life, he felt a strange calm wash over him. The whispers grew louder, and he realized they were calling his name, welcoming him into the darkness. The final scene was a familiar one, the audience staring in silent horror as the woman stepped out of the screen and into the theater. This time, Alex was among them, his own face frozen in terror. And as the camera zoomed in, he understood the terrible truth. He wasn't just watching the cursed film, he was in it. They found Alex's body days later, sitting alone in the empty theater, his eyes wide and unseeing, a look of unimaginable horror etched into his face. The authorities declared it a suicide, but those who knew Alex whispered of something far darker. The film was never recovered, but rumors persisted. Some claimed that if you search hard enough, you could still find a copy of Loon Noir online, buried deep in the corners of the internet. They say that once you watch it, you're never the same, that the woman in the film visits you in your dreams, whispering her curse into your soul, drawing you deeper into her nightmare. And if you ever find yourself compelled to watch a strange film you can't quite remember downloading, think twice, because once you press play, there's no escaping the curse.